Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it? If you're planning a trip and want the honest, is it worth it verdict before you book, follow the show on Spotify or Apple. Today, we're diving into something super interesting. I want you to just imagine this scenario for a second. You walk out these polished brass doors of this ultra-luxury, $300 a night, totally marble-clad hotel.
Right. Sounds amazing so far.
Yeah, right. You step onto the sidewalk, you turn the corner, and boom, you are immediately staring at this crumbling, graffiti-covered, brutalist apartment block from like the 1980s, and the street is completely gridlocked by heavy traffic.
It's quite the visual whiplash.
It totally is. And, well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are auditing Bucharest, Romania. It's the cheapest major capital in the European Union right now, and we've got this massive dossier of travel facts, figures, on-the-ground realities to sift through. And our main mission here is to answer one crucial question for you. Is a trip to this chaotic, totally contradictory city actually worth your hard-earned money and your limited vacation time in 2026 or 2027?
And I think right up top we need to say, it is a city that absolutely demands your active engagement. Like, if you were looking for a destination that just sort of curates itself for you, where everything is laid out on a silver platter and you don't have to think.
Like an all-inclusive or something?
Exactly. You will be completely overwhelmed here. It requires a very specific kind of travel due diligence.
Yeah, and let's just address the elephant in the room right away.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through our architectural notes, and we just have to state this clearly. Bucharest is not a beautiful city in the traditional, postcard sense.
Definitely not.
Pretending it is will only lead to disappointment. I mean, if you book a ticket expecting the uniform romance of Paris or that intact medieval perfection you get in Prague, you're going to have a terrible time.
You really will. The expectations have to be dialed in.
Right. But if you calibrate those expectations, what you find is incredibly interesting. I just keep coming back to this analogy. Visiting Bucharest is like finding this incredible, totally authentic designer jacket stuffed in the back of a vintage thrift store.
That's a great way to put it.
It's an absolute steal, right? And the discovery gives you a massive thrill. But, you might have to sew on a missing button when you get home. You have to accept a few frayed edges on the cuffs. You have to put in a little effort to extract the value.
Yeah, and that aesthetic tension is exactly what defines the experience there. And our objective today is to basically equip you, the listener, with that sewing kit.
I love that. The travel sewing kit.
Right. We are going to map out the precise daily budgets. We'll deconstruct the specific logistical traps that ensnare first-timers, analyze the rapidly changing border dynamics, and really outline how to hack the city's neighborhoods to maximize your experience.
So before we start, calculating daily budgets and mapping out those neighborhoods, we have to talk about why we're targeting this city right now, because the timeline is critical here.
Very critical.
We're looking at a closing window of opportunity. What makes this 2026 and 2027 window the tipping point?
Well, it comes down to a massive geopolitical and logistical shift regarding the Schengen zone. So for well over a decade, Romania was stuck in this sort of geopolitical waiting room.
Right.
They were a member of the European Union, obviously, but they were kept out of the Schengen border-free travel area.
Yeah, and I was reading through the diplomatic cables on this, and the delay wasn't just like standard administrative paperwork. Countries like Austria were actively blocking Romania's entry.
Yes, very publicly.
They were citing concerns over external border security, irregular migration routes, and internal corruption metrics. It was a really prolonged, highly politicized standoff.
Precisely. And it was a point of immense national frustration for Romania. But that standoff finally broke. Air and sea borders opened up for Romania in early 2025, and then the critical land borders followed at the end of March 2025.
Wow.
So Romania is now a fully integrated Schengen member.
And translating that geopolitical shift into practical travel logistics, I mean, it fundamentally alters how you build an itinerary.
Oh, completely.
Because previously, if you're doing a multi-country train trip, say you're starting in Budapest and heading east into Romania, you're dealing with a hard border. You'd have guards literally boarding the train in the middle of the night, checking passports, causing massive delays.
It was exhausting.
Bucharest just felt like this isolated outpost. But now, it's a frictionless, seamless add-on. You can hop a train from Vienna or grab a cheap flight from Berlin, and you never speak to a border agent.
Yeah, the friction that kept casual tourists away has vanished. But, and this is a big but, that newfound convenience brings a secondary mechanism into play, especially for non-EU travelers.
Okay, what's that?
The EU's ETIAS system. It's expected to go live in late 2026 and becomes fully mandatory through 2027.
Right, the European Travel Information and Authorization System. It's essentially an electronic visa waiver, like the STA in the US.
Exactly like the ST.
So it's going to add a fee of roughly 20 euros, which is about 22 US dollars for Americans, Brits, Canadians, and a bunch of others. But look, I mean, $22 is basically a rounding error in an international travel budget. So why is the ETIAS rollout such a pivotal factor in our analysis of Bucharest?
Because you have to think of ETIAS not just as a simple fee, but as an algorithmic velvet rope. It standardizes entry.
Interesting. How so?
When a city integrates into Schengen and falls under that ETIAS umbrella, it sends a massive data signal to algorithmic pricing models used by global airlines, hotel chains, tour operators, everyone.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so the algorithms now recognize Bucharest not as this complex secondary Eastern European destination with border friction, but just as a low-risk mainstream European hub.
Oh, wow, that is a brilliant point. The algorithms don't see the grit on the streets or the brutalist concrete. They just see a standardized European data point.
Exactly.
And when the destination is flagged as mainstream, the baseline pricing just automatically adjusts upward.
The profile rises, and the capital flows in to match Western standards. I mean, we saw the exact same trajectory with Prague in the early 2000s and Budapest in the 2010s. The raw, unfiltered edge gets sanded down to accommodate mass tourism, and the affordability just evaporates.
It vanishes.
Right. So ETIAS and Schengen integration are really the starting guns for that gentrification process in Bucharest.
That raises a really vital question, though. If the algorithmic pricing models are already adjusting and the borders are already open, does full Schengen access risk destroying the very affordability and off the beaten path charm that makes Bucharest so appealing in the first place? Are we already too late to get the bargain?
We aren't too late yet, but we are definitely in the twilight of the old era. Bucharest is currently suspended in this beautiful temporary transition phase.
The sweet spot.
Right. The friction of the border is gone, giving you the ease of Schengen, but a local economy hasn't entirely caught up to Western pricing. So you are getting the logistical benefits of the new regime with the economic benefits of the old regime. But that imbalance won't last long.
No, the market always corrects itself. And that mainstreaming, that algorithmic normalization of the city, it really clashes violently with what the city actually looks like when you step off the plane.
Oh, completely.
We really need to look at the physical reality of Bucharest to dispel the biggest myth travelers bring with them in their carry-on luggage.
You're talking about the persistent myth of the classic European city break.
Yes. Travelers have this deeply ingrained cinematic expectation. You book a flight to Europe, you imagine wandering aimlessly down these pristine, uniformly beautiful cobblestone streets. You picture a cohesive architectural narrative where everything is historic, there are zero cars, and there's an accordion player on every single corner.
A literal movie set.
Exactly. But as we established in the intro, Bucharest actively defies that expectation. The visual aesthetic is jarring.
Jarring is the absolute correct word. The architectural dissonance is profound.
Because you might be standing on Calea Victoriei, which is this magnificent, sweeping Belle Epoque boulevard. I mean, it is lined with stunning 19th century architecture that genuinely earned the city its old nickname, the Little Paris of the East.
It really is beautiful in those stretches.
It feels incredibly grand. But then you walk one block east and the illusion just shatters. You are suddenly surrounded by blunt, imposing, brutalist, concrete apartment blocks from the communist era. The whiplash is immediate.
And to understand why that whiplash exists, you have to look at Nicolae Ceausescu's systematization program from the 1970s and 80s.
I want to dig into this because you really can't understand modern Bucharest without understanding systematization. In 1977, a massive earthquake hit the city, causing significant damage, right?
Yes, it was devastating.
And CSU essentially used the earthquake as a convenient excuse to completely bulldoze roughly 1/5 of the historic city center. He didn't just rebuild, he aggressively erased the past to construct his vision of a socialist utopia.
Entire historic neighborhoods, churches, synagogues, just flattened to make way for massive concrete boulevards and standardized housing blocks.
Unbelievable.
So when a tourist today walks from a surviving 19th century street directly into a concrete wasteland, they aren't just seeing poor urban planning, they are walking across a historical scar.
And that historical trauma heavily impacts the historic core, which is known as Lipscani, or the Old Town. Travelers often try to map other cities onto Bucharest. They think, well, Prague has a beautiful old town. Bucharest must have one too.
It's a common misconception.
But Prague's sprawling, intact medieval quarter survived the 20th century mostly untouched. Bucharest's old town is entirely different in function and form.
Yeah, Lipscani is very small, and it is almost entirely focused on bars, clubs, and really aggressive nightlife.
Like Party Central.
Exactly. Furthermore, it is completely ringed by heavy traffic and those brutalist concrete blocks. It's basically an island of preserved streets and a sea of modernity.
But wait, hold on. If Lipscani is the historic core, why did it devolve into a chaotic nightlife hub rather than, like, a curated museum district like you see in Vienna or Krakow?
It comes down to post-communist property restitution litigation.
Legal battles.
Yeah, after the fall of communism in 1989, original owners, or their descendants, sued to reclaim buildings that the state had seized decades earlier.
Oh.
These legal battles dragged on for years, sometimes decades.
So they were in limbo.
Right. Because ownership was tied up in court, nobody invested in maintenance. The buildings became derelict and incredibly cheap to rent.
Oh, I see.
Naturally, bohemian artists, dive bars, and eventually massive nightclubs moved into these cheap, crumbling historic buildings, creating a deeply entrenched party culture.
So the nightlife dominance is actually a byproduct of legal gridlock. That is fascinating, but it also leads to a very clear skip-if signal for our listener.
Yes, absolutely.
If your ideal vacation is wandering through immaculate, quiet, historic streets for days on end, without ever breaking the illusion of being in the 1700s, skip Bucharest entirely. This is not your city.
It demands a very high tolerance for contrast. You have to be comfortable with grit sitting right next to grandeur.
It goes back to that shattered mosaic analogy. You can't just press your nose up against one piece of the old town and expect to see a cohesive picture. You have to step back, you have to actively use transport to travel between the surviving pockets of beauty, and you have to appreciate the strange, disjointed pattern for what it is.
And because the highlights are scattered, and because you will be physically navigating through these vast concrete environments to connect those pieces of the mosaic, you're highly exposed to the elements.
Oh, the weather.
Yes. The climate isn't just a background detail here. It will absolutely dictate the success or failure of your itinerary.
This is a really critical point. You cannot treat Bucharest like a year-round destination where every month is essentially fine. The geography actively works against you here.
The city sits on the flat Wallachian plain. It lacks the moderating influence of an ocean or a large body of water.
So it's extreme.
Very. Consequently, it has a very sharp continental climate, meaning you are dealing with brutal extremes, bitterly cold, biting winters, and genuinely oppressive summers.
Okay, so if we are targeting the ideal windows, when should listeners be booking their flights?
The strategy is to aim exclusively for the shoulder season, so we're talking May, June, September, and early October.
That is the sweet spot. The temperatures in those months generally sit in a very pleasant band between 68 and 79 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just perfect walking weather.
Ideal.
And the parks in Bucharest has incredible green spaces, like Sismiaju Gardens right in the center, and the massive King Michael Park up north are lush and usable. The cafe terraces along Calea Victoria are alive, but the city doesn't feel suffocatingly crowded.
And if you push your trip into late September or October, you hit the harvest season for local agriculture. Plus, hotel rates tend to soften as the summer heat breaks.
But then we have the danger zone.
Yes, July and August.
The danger zone. You really have to understand what a heat wave in a concrete-heavy city feels like. Temperatures regularly push past 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is where Chiescu's urban planning directly punishes the modern tourist.
It creates a severe urban heat island effect.
Explain the physics of that for a second, because it's not just about the ambient air temperature being high, right?
No, it's about the infrastructure. Those massive communist concrete boulevards and standardized housing blocks lack sufficient street-level shade. Throughout the day, the concrete absorbs the intense solar radiation.
It just bakes.
It acts like a giant thermal battery. Then, after the sun goes down, all that trapped heat radiates back out into the streets late into the night.
Ugh, miserable.
The city doesn't cool down properly. The pavements stay so hot they feel like they are baking you from the ground up, even at 11 p.m.
It is exhausting. The locals know this, which is why anyone who can afford it flees the city entirely during July and August. They head east to the Black Sea coast, to places like Constanta, or they drive north up into the Carpathian Mountains to cool off.
You will even find that some smaller, family-run restaurants shorten their hours, or close entirely because the kitchens just become dangerously hot.
Wow. Okay, so avoid summer. What about the other end of the spectrum?
Winter presents its own challenges. From December to February, temperatures frequently drop below freezing. It is gray, it snows, and those flat Wallachian winds are really biting.
But there's a flip side for budget travelers, right?
There is. January offers the absolute cheapest hotel rates of the entire year if you are strictly hunting for a bottom dollar bargain.
And December features the Bucharest Christmas market at Piața Constituției, right in front of the massive talus of the parliament. But I have to challenge this recommendation a bit. Is this Christmas market truly spectacular enough to warrant braving freezing winds on an open concrete plaza? Or is recommending December strictly a move for hardcore budget travelers who don't mind losing feeling in their toes?
That is very fair pushback. The market is visually impressive simply because of the sheer scale of the Parliament building lit up in the background. It's huge. Yeah. But I would not put it in the same tier as Vienna, Strasbourg, or Cologne, where the market is complex enough to be the sole reason for the trip.
Right. You don't fly there just for the market.
Exactly. If you happen to be in the region for a broader winter trip, it is a nice evening out. But Bucharest truly shines in May or September when you can actively engage with the outdoor cafe culture.
So stick to the shoulder seasons. Now, if you thread that needle and pick the right week in September, you benefit from what I consider Bucharest's biggest structural advantage over Western Europe, a distinct lack of crowds.
It is the definition of an under-tourism destination.
You are not going to be moving shoulder to shoulder with thousands of people trying to cross a bridge like you would in Venice. You aren't going to queue for 2 hours just to take a photo of a clock tower.
Mercifully, no.
And because accommodation is rarely scarce, hotel prices stay relatively flat throughout the year. But that pristine, empty runway ends the second you step off the plane. We really need to talk about arrival friction.
We do.
Okay.
Because flights into Henri Coandă International Airport, which is universally known as Otopeni, airport code OTP, are remarkably cheap.
How cheap are we talking?
Budget carriers from major European hubs can get you there for an astonishing $40 to $90 round trip in the shoulder season.
Under $100 for a round-trip international flight is phenomenal.
It's a steal, but...
Yeah, there's always a but. I was reading the dossier on Otopeni, and the arrival trap there is notorious. Walk us through exactly how the taxi syndicate corners arriving tourists, because this seems like a highly organized operation.
Oh, it is. It relies entirely on exploiting travel fatigue and disorientation. You walk out into the arrivals terminal after a long flight. You haven't connected your phone to the local mobile network yet, so you lack data.
You're just totally offline.
Right. And your brain is trying to calculate the exchange rate from euros or dollars into Romanian lei. In that moment of vulnerability, you are aggressively approached by drivers inside the terminal.
And some of these guys look completely official, right? Like they have lanyards and badges.
Yes, that's the tricky part. Some are unlicensed touts, while others drive officially marked cars but use heavily rigged meters or a fast meter setting.
Ah, I hate that.
They will confidently quote you a flat fare that sounds somewhat plausible if your mental math on the exchange rate is fuzzy.
Right, because a ride from Otopeni to the city center should take about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic, and honestly, it should only cost between 11 and 17 US dollars.
That's the real rate, yes.
But if you engage with these touts, you will arrive at your hotel and find your $15 ride has magically morphed into a 50 to 100 US dollar shakedown. And they will aggressively demand you pay in cash, putting you in a highly confrontational situation before you've even checked into your room.
It instantly puts you on the defensive and ruins the first 24 hours of the trip.
Totally.
But the solution is entirely within the traveler's control. The primary rule: ignore all touts. Do not make eye contact. Do not engage in conversation with anyone offering a ride inside the terminal building.
Just walk purposefully past them. Don't even say no thank you. So what are the bulletproof alternatives? Let's give the exact logistical fixes.
The most economical option is the Express Bus 783. It departs right outside the terminal and runs straight down into the city center to Piața Unirii. It takes about 40 to 50 minutes, and it costs roughly 65 cents in US dollars.
65 cents? That is practically free. What about the train?
There's a train line connecting the airport to Gare du Nord, which is the main train station. It departs roughly every hour, takes 25 minutes, and costs about $1.40.
Okay, but let's say I have heavy luggage, and I just want a private car to take me directly to my hotel door without dealing with bus schedules or train transfers. What do I do?
Then you rely on ride-hailing apps. Bolt is currently far more popular and reliable than Uber in Romania.
Good to know. Bolt, not Uber.
Right. So, before you leave your home country, download the Bolt app and set up your payment method.
Eh.
When you land, use the airport Wi-Fi, pre-book a ride, and you will pay the honest, algorithmically generated rate of 11 to 17 US dollars.
Perfect. I also want to flag something else from our research. There has been a lot of PR talk about a new M6 metro line being built to connect the airport directly to the city.
I would advise listeners to completely ignore it.
Really? Why?
Building subterranean infrastructure in a densely populated post-communist city involves endless bureaucratic and archaeological delays. The M6 is severely delayed and is not a viable option for anyone traveling in the 2026 or 2027 window.
So survival at Otopeni boils down to basic travel due diligence. Pass the test by having the Bolt app ready and you start your trip smoothly. Fail it by talking to the guy in the arrivals hall and you're out $100.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have survived the terminal. You're in your Bolt, the meter is running fairly, and you're watching the city roll by. Where is that car actually taking you? Let's map out the geography of accommodation because choosing the wrong neighborhood here will drastically alter your experience.
Let's segment this by traveler persona, starting with the backpacker and budget tier. If your primary goal is bottom dollar pricing and social interaction, you are looking at Lipscani, the Old Town.
We discussed this earlier. This is the nightlife epicenter.
It is. Properties like the Little Bucharest Old Town Hostel or the Umbrella Hostel offer dorm beds for an incredible 13 to 22 US dollars a night.
Wow.
A private room in these hostels runs roughly $32 to $60.
But wait, hold on. You are advising backpackers to stay in Lipscani for $15, but we literally just established that Lipscani is a chaotic, extremely loud nightlife hub surrounded by gridlock traffic. Aren't we just sending budget travelers into a sensory nightmare where they won't sleep for 3 days?
It is a deliberate trade-off, and the traveler must be aware of it. You are trading sleep quality for ultimate walkability and immediate access to the social scene.
Ah, get it.
If you are 22 years old and plan to be in those DARs until 3 a.m. anyway, the noise doesn't matter. But if you want to sleep at 10 p.m., do not book a hostel in Lipscani.
Fair point. Know yourself. What about the mid-range traveler? Like a couple who wants comfort, reliable air conditioning, but doesn't want to burn cash unnecessarily.
This is arguably the strongest tier in Bucharest. You can secure a solid 3-star or boutique hotel for 60 to 103 US dollars a night.
That's amazing for a European capital.
It really is. Look at historic properties like Hotel Sismigiu right near the gardens, or modern chain branches like the Mercure Bucharest Unirii. They are central, but there is a crucial caveat. You must explicitly request a courtyard-facing room.
I want to highlight this because it's vital. A lot of 19th century and early 20th century architecture in Bucharest is built around internal courtyards, right?
It's this very common design there.
So the street-facing rooms absorb all the noise from those massive heavy traffic boulevards we talked about. The courtyard-facing rooms lit inward. You might sacrifice a view of the street, but you gain absolute silence.
And that is the difference between a restful vacation and severe sleep deprivation. Moving up to families, though, the hotel math changes.
Because booking 2 adjacent hotel rooms for a family of 4 quickly destroys a mid-range budget.
Exactly. So families should pivot to short-term apartment rentals.
Okay, what does that look like price-wise?
You can rent a spacious, full 2-bedroom apartment near Piața Unirii or Universitate for 70 to 130 US dollars a night.
That's a huge value.
It gives you a kitchen for breakfast, space for kids to decompress, and puts you near a major metro hub. But families must verify, not assume, that the apartment has high-functioning air conditioning if traveling anywhere near the summer months.
Oh, yeah, because of that urban heat island effect.
Precisely. Furthermore, they need to realize that the major family attractions, the big parks, the village museum, are in the northern part of the city. You cannot walk there from the center. You will need to manage daily transport logistics.
Let's talk about the tier that absolutely fascinates me from an economic perspective: luxury arbitrage.
It is the most compelling value proposition on the continent right now.
I mean, we are talking about globally recognized, true 5-star luxury properties. The Intercontinental Athene Palace Hilton, the JW Marriott, the Radisson Blu, and the recently opened Corinthia. These are white-glove, marble lobby institutions.
Top tier.
And they are running somewhere between 195 and 380 US dollars a night.
Which is astounding when you think about it. How do local economic wages and real estate dynamics allow for that pricing?
Well, it's all about operational costs. The physical buildings often have complex subsidized histories, but more importantly, the labor costs for hospitality staff in Romania are significantly lower than in Western Europe.
Right, that makes sense.
The savings on staffing a 24-hour concierge, a Michelin-level kitchen, and daily housekeeping are passed down into the room rate. The exact same square footage, thread count, and service level at a Corinthia in London or a Hilton in Paris would easily cost $800 to $1,200 a night.
So it is essentially a 70% discount on true luxury.
But there is a catch, isn't there? Because the luxury bubble is incredibly fragile in
Oh,
Bucharest.
very, very fragile.
You can be sipping a perfect martini in a $300 a night suite, but the second you walk out the lobby doors, the hotel cannot control the environment. You are immediately thrust back into the brutalist concrete, the uneven pavements, and the chaotic traffic. The luxury does not extend to the neighborhood level.
The polish stops exactly at the revolving door.
Exactly. So you have locked in an incredibly priced room, whether it's a $15 dorm or a $200 luxury suite. But the daily cost of just existing in a city, buying coffees, eating lunch, grabbing a beer, is where travel budgets usually bleed out in places like London or Rome.
Oh, without a doubt. It adds up so fast.
But here, the macroeconomic realities of Romania create a massive advantage for the traveler. Let's talk about the food scene.
Romania has a really robust agricultural sector.
Right.
And combined with lower domestic wages, it keeps the cost of dining out remarkably low compared to the EU average.
The numbers are just staggering. A quick breakfast, like a fresh pastry or a local pretzel called a covered, will set you back $1 to $3.
Can't beat that.
A casual sit-down main course is roughly $8.60 to $16. A highly rated Midrange dinner with excellent service is $16 to $32 per person.
And the quality is fantastic.
A local craft beer or a specialty coffee is about $2.20 to $4.30. Even a generous pour of excellent Romanian wine is only $3.20 to $7.6.
And those are just standard a la carte restaurant prices. If you want to exploit the ultimate economic hack of Romanian dining, you have to utilize the menial zile.
The menu of the day. I looked into the origins of this. It has roots in the old worker canteens, right? Designed to provide a fast, calorically dense meal to the local workforce during their lunch hour.
Yes, that's the origin.
And today it has evolved into a staple offering at almost every traditional restaurant.
For roughly $5.40 to $9.70 US, you receive a full 2 or 3 course lunch.
Under $10.
It almost always starts with a soup, typically a traditional sarsiorba, followed by a hearty main course featuring pork, chicken, or sausages with potatoes, and sometimes a small salad or a basic dessert. It is a complete sit-down meal for under $10.
That entirely removes the psychological stress of eating out. You aren't constantly calculating whether you can afford an appetizer. Another incredible culinary experience, and this is as authentic as it gets, is heading out to Piața Obor.
Oh, the market.
It's fantastic. This is the city's massive, sprawling traditional market. You walk past endless stalls of seasonal produce, local cheeses, and butchers. But you are really there to follow the smoke.
The grill stands.
Yes. You follow the smell of charcoal to the outdoor grills and order maisi. These are traditional skinless grilled sausages made from a mixture of beef, pork, and lamb, heavily spiced with garlic and black pepper.
So good.
They serve them on a simple cardboard plate with a dollop of sharp, bright yellow mustard and chunks of fresh bread. You eat them standing up at high metal tables, shoulder to shoulder with locals on their lunch break. A plate of that will run you about $4.3 to $6.50 US. It is an incredible sensory experience.
It really is. But if you want to swing the pendulum the other way and book a true dining destination for the evening, the standout is Karu Kuber.
The architecture of this place is wild. It's a 19th century beer hall located in the Old Town. It features soaring vaulted ceilings, intricate dark wood carving, and stunning stained glass. It feels like you are eating inside a Gothic cathedral.
It's very dramatic.
And despite being a major tourist draw, a huge heavy dinner there, complete with liters of house beer, will only land around $16 to $25 US per person.
Alternatively, there is Hanu Lui Manuk, which is the oldest operating hotel building in Bucharest. It is a restored medieval coaching inn where you dine in a massive open-air central courtyard.
So those food prices give you a false sense of invincibility. You think your daily budget is bulletproof.
Oh, that's a dangerous mindset.
Because there are two very specific, highly effective mechanisms designed to drain that budget if you let your guard down. We covered the airport taxi syndicate. Now we must navigate the final 2 traps.
Trap number 2 is the unpriced Old Town bar trap. And this occurs almost exclusively in the Lipscani district.
Break down the psychology of this scam for us. How do they actually get you?
Well, you are walking down a crowded street in the Old Town. Aggressive promoters are stationed outside various bars and clubs. They are highly charismatic, offer you a free shot or a VIP table to lure you inside.
Sure, standard nightlife stuff?
Right. You agree, you sit down, and you order a round of drinks. But the critical detail is that there are no visible prices anywhere. There are no menus on the tables, no chalkboards on the wall, and the promoter verbally avoids giving you a price.
And because you've been eating three-course lunches for $10 all day, you assume a vodka soda is going to be like $3.
Precisely. They rely entirely on your complacency. When you finally ask for the bill, that standard round of drinks suddenly morphs into a $60 to $120 invoice.
Unbelievable.
Sometimes they tack on an arbitrary table fee or a live entertainment fee at the last second just to pad it out.
I assume if you try to argue the bill, they don't just politely agree to disagree.
No, absolutely not. This is a gray market operation. It is enforced by very large, highly intimidating doormen who will physically block the exit until you hand over your credit card. Authorities struggle to shut them down because technically you consume the product without asking the price beforehand. It falls into a legal gray area.
Wow. So the fix here is entirely preventative.
Yes.
Ignore street promoters completely. Only sit down at establishments where a menu with clearly printed prices is visible on the table before you order. If a bar refuses to show you a price list, stand up and walk out immediately and pay as you go per round rather than running a tab so you can verify the charges in real time.
Exactly. Trap number 3 isn't a financial scam. It's a physical trap. The walkability illusion, compounded by the Gare du Nord train station.
This goes right back to Sescu's urban planning. Visitors look at a map of Bucharest and assume they can walk from the old town to the northern parks, just like they would walk across Amsterdam or Florence.
It looks doable on paper.
But they fail to understand the sheer scale of the city.
The boulevards were designed for grand military parades, not pedestrian flow. The distances between major points of interest are vast. Furthermore, outside of the historic center, the pavements are often uneven, broken, or blocked by parked cars.
It's an obstacle course.
If you try to aggressively walk the entire city, you will be exhausted, overheated, and deeply frustrated by noon.
My analogy for this, trying to tackle Bucharest entirely on foot, is like wearing flip-flops to an active construction site. You are using the completely wrong tool for the environment, and you are going to get hurt, or in this case, completely drained of energy.
And that exhaustion makes you vulnerable if you end up near Gare du Nord, the main train station.
Right.
Many tourists arrive there via international trains, tired and hauling luggage. They assume they could just walk to their nearby hotel. But the immediate radius around Gare du Nord is a known hotspot for pickpockets and aggressive hustlers, and it feels distinctly unsafe after dark.
So how do we efficiently navigate the city and avoid the walkability trap without relying constantly on taxis?
You must enthusiastically embrace the Bucharest metro system.
I am a massive advocate for this metro. It was built in the late 1970s and 80s, driven deep underground to survive earthquakes. Because it was a point of communist pride, the stations are huge and efficient.
They're cavernous.
It is incredibly clean, air-conditioned, and for some reason, tourists almost entirely ignore it.
And a single ride is well under $1. You use the metro to cover the massive north-south distances, for example, jumping from Piața Unirii in the center all the way up to Herostra Park in the north.
Yep.
Then you use the Bolt app for those tricky short neighborhood hops where the metro lines don't quite connect. You save your walking energy exclusively for strolling inside the parks or down the pedestrian-friendly Calea Victoria.
Okay, so you have guarded your wallet from the bar scams, and you've saved your feet by mastering the subterranean metro. You have all this extra time and energy. What is actually worth spending it on? Let's sift through the genuine highlights versus the overrated killer.
The defining must-do experience in Bucharest is the Palace of the Parliament.
We really have to talk about the sheer, mind-boggling scale of this building. It is the second largest administrative building in the world, trailing only the Pentagon.
It's absurdly large.
It contains roughly 1 million cubic meters of marble, all sourced from within Romania.
It is the ultimate monument to Ceausescu's megalomania. You must book a guided tour well in advance, and you are required to bring your physical passport to clear security. The entry fee is roughly $11.
But I want to push back on this from an experiential standpoint. If this building is essentially a tomb for the historic neighborhoods that were crushed to build it, and it represents a dictator who starved his own people to fund it, doesn't taking a tour feel a bit macabre? Like, why are we telling listeners to go give them $11?
It is a valid concern, definitely, but the experience is not about glorification. It is about comprehending the reality of architectural trauma.
Okay, I'm listening.
You cannot understand the psychological weight of 20th century Romanian history without standing inside those cavernous, echoing marble halls. The sheer terrifying scale of it is the lesson.
That is a profound way to look at it. Moving to something much lighter, what else makes the cut?
The Romanian Athenaeum. It is a breathtaking neoclassical concert hall built in the late 19th century, famously funded by a public subscription campaign where citizens literally donated small coins to see it completed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Then there is the Stavropolios Monastery, a tiny, visually stunning Eastern Orthodox church from the 1700s. It sits right in the middle of the chaotic old town, providing this beautiful, tranquil architectural contrast.
For families or anyone needing a break from the heavy concrete center, the Open Air Village Museum is incredible. It's located on the shores of Hărăstrău Lake and costs about 6.50 US dollars. They physically relocated historic rural houses, wooden churches, and windmills from all over the Romanian countryside and reassembled them in this massive shaded park.
It's a great escape.
Also, the Therme Bucharesti Spa is hugely popular. It is a massive, futuristic indoor water park and thermal bath complex located just outside the city, utilizing deep geothermal water.
And for visual aesthetics, Carceresti Carousel is essential.
Oh, the Carousel of Light. It is housed in a beautifully restored 19th century bank building that was seized during communism and eventually returned to the original family through those restitution laws we discussed earlier.
Right.
They turned it into a breathtaking bookstore with 6 floors, sweeping white balconies, and a cafe at the top.
So those are the genuine highlights.
Yeah.
But we also need to explicitly point out what is overrated and should be skipped.
As we established, the Old Town as a whole is a disappointment for true architecture purists. Do not dedicate a whole day to exploring it. Secondly, you can comfortably skip the generic, highly marketed communism tours.
Yeah, various operators push these expensive walking tours, but honestly, a cheap self-guided audio app and the official Parliament tour covered the exact same historical ground and facts for a fraction of the cost.
I want to ask you about a phenomenon that ties back to our shattered mosaic concept. How do you reconcile the stunning, viral Instagram photos of places like the Athenaeum or that gorgeous bookstore with the reality that there is a gray concrete block and gridlock traffic just outside the frame?
You reconcile it by accepting that Bucharest is a city of moments, not panoramas.
A city of moments. I like that.
An Instagram shot of the Athenaeum deliberately crops out the traffic because the photographer is capturing a single, isolated moment of beauty. The traveler who succeeds in Bucharest understands that the beauty is always framed by grit. If you require a perfect 360-degree historical panorama to be happy, you will be miserable here.
But if you can look closer.
Exactly. If you can appreciate the beautiful moments within the chaos, you will love it.
So if we zoom out from those individual moments, how does this entire package hold up when you put it next to the heavyweights of Eastern Europe? If a listener is weighing Bucharest against its direct competitors, how do we frame that choice?
The two most direct comparisons are Budapest and Sofia. Let's analyze Budapest, Hungary first. I categorize this as the trade-up.
Why is it a trade-up?
Because Budapest is the highly polished, postcard-perfect version of the Central European city break. It features a compact, genuinely beautiful historical core, the famous thermal baths, and a deeply entrenched tourist infrastructure. But that polish comes with a significant premium.
What does that premium look like in daily costs?
You are looking at a 20 to 35% premium across the board. A comfortable mid-range day in Budapest will run you closer to 120 to 180 US dollars compared to Bucharest's 110 to 130.
That adds up over a week.
Furthermore, Budapest went through its mainstreaming gentrification phase a decade ago. Their famous ruined bars have largely transformed into corporate tourist traps. You are paying more to deal with significantly larger crowds.
So you choose Budapest if you want easy navigation and perfect architecture, and you're willing to pay the premium and fight the crowds to get it. What about the like-for-like swap?
That would be Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. Sofia offers a nearly identical price point to Bucharest. A mid-range day, there's about 80 to 130 US dollars.
Super affordable.
And it has an even lower international profile, meaning it is severely under-touristed. Its massive geographic advantage is that the Vitosha Mountains rise directly behind the city, offering immediate access to nature.
But what is Sofia missing that Bucharest delivers?
It lacks the grand imperial scale of Bucharest. It feels much smaller, almost provincial by comparison. The international flight connections are weaker, and the nightlife and culinary scenes are noticeably quieter and less developed.
Synthesizing all of this, Bucharest sits in a highly unique middle ground. It possesses the grand architectural ambitions and the massive scale of Budapest, but it still maintains the raw, unpolished value and the distinct lack of over-tourism that you find in Sofia. It is the Goldilocks city for a traveler willing to navigate the contrasts.
Which brings us to the final decision matrix. Taking all the macroeconomic factors, the climate extremes, the architectural dissonance, and the logistical hurdles together, we need to deliver the ultimate verdict.
Let's break it down by persona, giving a definitive score out of 10, starting with the backpackers.
For backpackers, it is a 9 out of 10. The value is unbeatable. If you can operate on $43 to $65 a day, secure a $15 dorm in the Old Town, and eat grilled sausages at Piazza Obor for under $6, you will not find a cheaper, more vibrant capital city break anywhere in the EU.
The mid-range traveler.
Midrange scores an 8 out of 10. It offers incredible luxury-adjacent value for $110 to $130 a day. You get excellent courtyard-facing boutique hotels, fantastic three-course lunches, and the freedom to use rideshare apps everywhere. You just have to plan your dates carefully to avoid the July heat.
Digital nomads. We didn't touch on this deeply, but remote work is huge here.
Digital nomads are an 8 out of 10. The technological infrastructure is elite. Romania built out incredibly fast, localized fiber optic networks in the 1990s that evolved into some of the fastest internet in the world.
That's a huge perk.
For an all-in cost of $1,300 to $2,200 a month, you can rent a beautiful apartment in a northern neighborhood like Floreasca, work from great cafes, and live exceptionally well.
The luxury crowd.
Luxury is an 8 out of 10. You are unlocking true, 5-star global hospitality and fine dining for an absolute fraction of London or Paris prices. It only misses a perfect score because the streets immediately outside those marble lobbies will abruptly break the luxury illusion.
Finally, families.
Family score is 7 out of 10. It is financially very accessible, especially renting a large apartment for $100. But it scores lower because it requires rigorous daily planning. You have to actively manage the summer heat, verify the air conditioning, and deal with transport fatigue because the attractions are spread so far apart.
The ultimate summary is this. Unless you rigidly demand a compact, perfectly preserved historic center where you can walk around in a manicured bubble, or you are looking for an effortless flop-on-the-beach resort vacation, the answer to is Bucharest worth it? Is an overwhelming yes.
Bucharest deeply rewards the active, prepared traveler. If you take the time to understand the metro system, if you pre-download the Bolt app, if you bypass the taxi touts and flat-out ignore the unlicensed bars, it offers immense cultural and financial rewards.
It really does.
It allows you to engage with a level of grit, contrast, and authenticity that simply does not exist in Western Europe anymore.
Because being well-informed is the ultimate travel hack. A little preparation turns what could be a chaotic, expensive, and frustrating arrival into a totally seamless, incredibly high-value adventure.
And as you look at your travel calendar for 2026 or 2027, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought regarding the timeline we discussed at the top of the show.
Let's hear it.
Consider how cities like Bucharest are currently caught in a very brief, incredibly fragile transitionary phase. They are suspended halfway between their complicated, gritty, post-communist pasts and a highly standardized, algorithmically priced European future.
The algorithmic velvet rope.
Right. This might be one of the very last truly authentic, unpolished travel experiences left on the continent. Once that ETIAS system is fully operational, once the algorithmic pricing models adjust to the seamless land borders, and the rest of the world fully catches on to the luxury arbitrage available here, will this beautiful, chaotic charm and those $10 three-course lunches be lost forever?
That puts a serious ticking clock on the whole destination. It goes right back to the thrift store jacket analogy. That jacket is hanging on the rack right now, priced to sell. But sooner or later, the broader market is going to recognize the designer label and the price tag is going to triple. You have to grab it while it's still a secret. If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day. That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.